Thanks everyone for joining us tonight about the Season of Giving workshop. We're so excited about the holidays here at OneGreenThing and hope you can join us. We also note that today is the first day of Hanukkah, so many of you are celebrating, and I'll be celebrating shortly as well. But the important thing is that we take time during the holidays to reflect and to support all of the causes that we care about. With that, I'm going to ask Emily to head to the next slide. What we're going to cover is our approach to climate action, the climate action landscape for nonprofits, organizations to explore based on your service superpower. And we want to make sure that you know about our journal prompts and the joy tracker that we offer at OneGreenThing.org. Next slide, please. So just a reminder, eco-anxiety is defined by the American Psychological Association as the chronic fear of environmental doom. Next slide. Our approach at OneGreenThing is that we are at the intersection of the climate crisis and mental health, and our mission is to tackle eco-anxiety through joyful daily action, leading to culture change for policy solutions. Action abates anxiety, connection lessens loneliness, and policy scales solutions. Next slide, please. The Service Superpower Assessment is right on OneGreenThing.org. Just quickly, we'll talk about this. This whole idea is like a Myers-Briggs or an Enneagram for climate action. It starts with the who, not the what. We want to know, who are you? How do you show up for the people you love? And then we can start talking about the individual practices and behaviors you may have in order to embark on this whole journey of OneGreenThing. Next slide, please. So there are 7 service superpowers. First, we have the adventurer. And then we have the adventurer who embraces the physicality of the outdoors. This is a hands-on learner. They're the folks who are out kayaking, but also taking people outside their comfort zones. Next slide. Excuse me, the beacon. The beacon service superpower speaks truth to power and is all about justice. They're the folks with the bullhorn. They're going to be with a big sign at the rally. Next slide, please. Then we have the influencer. The influencer is all about people and connects others. They're really important in the sustainability world because they also focus on the latest trends. Then we have the philanthropist, the giver. I know it's a really big term, but this is actually someone who shows up for the people they love by donating their time and their resources. And we all hope to tap into our inner philanthropists this season. And then we finally have the sage, and the sage is connected to the spiritual part of nature. And the sage is very important in climate action because they can make that moral case for climate action. And then there's the spark, which is the cheerleader. And the cheerleader is kind of the +1, the person who says, sure, I'm in. And without the spark that will go with you to an event or watch a nature documentary or donate to your favorite cause, there really is no movement. And finally, there's the wonk. And the wonk is the person who's focused on data and technology and can translate complex technical issues in ways that people can understand. So this is our way in, next slide, to service and climate action, because this issue is so overwhelming. A lot of people don't know where to begin. So if you take the Service Superpower Assessment, then you can step into enjoying this daily practice of sustainability to reduce your eco-anxiety, increase your joy, and also shift the culture to adapt rapidly and to scale climate policy solutions. And so with that, we're just going to quickly talk about today's topic, which is philanthropy. And so why does philanthropy matter? Philanthropy matters because you are using your resources, your financial resources, to invest and align your values with other organizations that are providing service, whether it's in-depth white papers and policy papers on important climate solutions, whether it's helping people on the front lines who are fighting plastic pollution in oil and gas industries in their neighborhoods, or whether you're supporting natural resources or public land trusts or national parks. There's all kinds of opportunities for you to do well by doing good and support nonprofit organizations. The good news about when you support a nonprofit organization, you can get a tax deduction as well. And it can also just kind of, I would say, pay it forward. It's basically a lot of energy that you're putting out there to create capacity and opportunity for non-governmental organizations to make an important impact in your community, at your state level, nationally, and globally as well. So philanthropy is really important. It's a big driver of our economy and driver for important social change. Next slide. How can you get involved? So the most important thing and the best way for you to get involved is to show up. Show up at lectures, show up at talks, show up at events that are organized by nonprofits that you're interested in or you have an affinity to. You can also donate. You can also volunteer and learn more about these organizations. Every different nonprofit has different ways that they're able to volunteer, plug in volunteers. Some have river cleanup. Some have, school gardening programs where they need master gardeners to help. Some have trail maintenance that they need. Some people need help with media or social media relations. Some people need help with events or technology. But there's also just kind of a gradation of what's available for volunteers. But be sure to ask and say, hey, how I can help. One of the best things you can do is follow the groups that you love on social media, share the message, and encourage your friends and colleagues to be part of that community. Next slide, please. So now we're going to talk about your Service Superpower, which you can take that assessment, and different types of nonprofits that I'd like to introduce you to. And these are actually in the appendix of my book, OneGreenThing, Discover Your Hidden Power to Help Save the Planet. So these are kind of how I've taken a landscape of nonprofits. I've looked at the landscape of nonprofits and climate action and put them in these categories based on the Service Superpower Assessment. So adventure NGOs include things like the Bahamas Plastic Movement, City Kids Wilderness, which gets kids from inner cities, most of them are Black, Indigenous people of color, gets them out into wilderness, including into Teton National Park and areas in Yellowstone. Latinos Outdoors is a fantastic outdoor-based organization for the Latino community. Obviously, many of you are familiar with National Geographic Society. Outdoor Afro is a great organization to follow, very inspiring and focused on creating safe places outdoors for Black Americans and people of color. Sierra Club, there's almost a local chapter everywhere in the United States. I think there's even a zip code finder on sierraclub.org where you can go on hikes. You can see different nature documentaries, and you can learn about the different environmental campaigns that are going on in your community. The Student Conservation Association is also a cool organization that provides hands-on trail maintenance and volunteer opportunities for young people. Next slide, please. Then these are some of my favorite beacon nonprofits, and NGO stands for non-governmental organization. It's kind of the lingo we use in the nonprofit world. Climate Reality Project was founded by Al Gore, my former boss. I worked on his 2000 campaign. Great resources, excellent science there at COP28 right now in Dubai, and doing fantastic work, just doing all that they can to say the moment to phase out fossil fuels is now, and there's a tremendous sense of urgency with climate action. Earth Justice, Fair Fight is a voting rights organization. Greenpeace, many of you are familiar with. The Louisiana Bucket Brigade might be new to folks on this list. This is obviously based in Louisiana, but these folks are they're fence line communities right next to plastic production and oil and gas plants. And the Bucket Brigade has taken all kinds of, used citizen science, and actually at one point took buckets to test air and water near the facilities next to their communities. And they're terrific on the ground fence line community support. The Sunrise Movement is a youth-based organization, which I think has, most people are very familiar with. They were huge partners in the national and global climate strikes that we've seen. Next slide. And then we have influencers. Reminder, the influencer is all about people, people, people. Charity Water is an international program delivering clean water globally. The Environmental Media Association is a great organization to follow, with tremendous amount of Hollywood presence and talent doing environmental education and awareness. Also focused on trying to make Hollywood productions use less plastic and become more sustainable. Global Green, also a similar network and reach. Indigenous Environmental Network, great organization to follow and support as they bring many different Indigenous communities together and raise awareness about the different environmental campaigns and challenges that they're faced with. Natural Resources Defense Council, Robert Redford, Julia Louise-Dreyfus, and a lot of celebrities are connected with NRDC. They also have a tremendous amount of power when it comes to policy and politics. Great organization to follow. Plastic Pollution Coalition, which I'm on the board of, is a fantastic nonprofit that's focused on reducing single-use plastic. They have done a tremendous amount of work in the United United Nations with the upcoming multilateral treaty on plastic to try to end single-use plastic. Also, a terrific network of musicians that they connect with. Jackson Browne is on the board. They do a tremendous amount of work with Ben Harper and other artists to try to make touring companies go green, and for celebrities to make it more accessible for them to have green touring practices. We Act Justice is based in New York, but again, a wonderful environmental justice organization that Peggy Shepard is involved with. Very important work that they do, a lot on environmental health and toxic chemicals. Next slide, please. Then there's the Philanthropist NGOs. This is fun. These are folks who support other people. The Deep South Center for Environmental Justice just received a lot of support from the EPA for environmental justice, and they are working on helping other organizations and other groups in the Deep South to get support for their advocacy to make sure that they have opportunities in the green economy and in that transition. Defenders of Wildlife, you all are probably familiar with. That's a big name brand NGO, and it supports endangered species. Give Green is a group of League of Conservation voters. It's connected to League of Conservation voters, and it's a way for you to support candidates that are supporting and believe in strong climate policies. League of Conservation voters actually scores member of Congress and state legislators based on their environment record, whether they're pro-environment or not. Great opportunity for you to learn more about the elected officials in your community and at your state level. Mom's Clean Air Force is very much what it says. They talk a lot about clean air, but they've been doing work in climate mental health as well. Native Americans in Philanthropy, an important resource to support tribal efforts. And the Power Shift Network is a youth-focused network that's focused on training youth in green jobs. Next slide. SAGE NGO. So SAGE, reminder, this is the folks that have a spiritual connection to nature, the Coalition on the Environment and Jewish Life, Evangelical Environmental Network, Green the Church, Green Faith, the National Religious Coalition on Creation Care, and Interfaith Power and Light. These are all really powerful NGOs that are focused on the spiritual connection to nature. This concept of creation care is that if you have a strong faith, it is part of your duty to take care of the earth that we all share. All of these organizations represent many different religions, but compassion is at the center of all of their work and what they do. Next slide, please. Spark NGOs, remember, this is the plus one. I'm here for you. The National Environmental Education Foundation. It provides grants and support for teachers to do climate literacy and climate education. The National Park Foundation is almost a clearinghouse for philanthropic support for national parks around the country. Public Lands Alliance actually supports public lands that aren't technically national parks, that Forest Service land, that BLM land in your backyard, that's the Bureau of Land Management, other local parks and regions all collect through the Public Lands Alliance to work together to preserve natural spaces. The Public Interest Research Group, the BIRGs, you may have had somebody knock on your door canvassing, asking you to support different environmental campaigns in your neighborhood, but these are sparks because they're always there and show up for all the different other organizations. Local land trusts, of course, are important, and state-based environmental health organizations. Next slide, please. The Wonks, and I'm a Wonk, you all, it's pretty obvious. The Wonk NGOs, Climate Central is a lot of scientists and meteorologists that have come together to do research about the impacts, the costs of the climate crisis, what we will be seeing if we don't act quickly, what 2050 looks like, what 2030 looks like. They're doing all kinds of really important work on Climate Central. Environmental Defense Fund works a lot with big brands to try to help them go greener. Friends of the Earth, also a great organization. The Nature Conservancy is a $4 billion nonprofit. You probably know lands nearby that have been in conservation endowment through the TNC. Science Mom is a great organization of scientific moms who are out there talking about the importance of climate action. And the Union of Concerned Scientists provide excellent resources and research on climate solutions and what's possible. Oh, and Project Drawdown, of course, which is a great resource I use in my book that has the top 100 climate solutions and ranks them about what has the most impact and how. Great resource. Next slide, please. So what now? Please give. Give your time, your talent, and your resources. It makes a difference. It makes a difference depending on what you're interested in, but supporting this community based on your unique service superpower and what you're aligned with does make a difference. Please incorporate the giving into your daily practice of OneGreenThing. Maybe become a sustaining donor, make a monthly donor. That ongoing support is really important for these NGOs, or become a regular volunteer as you support these nonprofits that you love and connect with. Please share your activities on social. Take the Be an Awesome Ancestor pledge at OneGreenThing. Be mindful of our bullet journal that we have. And also we have journal prompts in the book, OneGreenThing, and through many of our resources on our tools and resources page. And please consider supporting OneGreenThing this season. Next slide, please. And here are all of our handles. Please join us on social media. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and subscribe to this series. Thank you so much and have a wonderful night.